Today we're going to be focusing on debt, and we're going to be talking about the different kinds of debt, and you understanding your debt and knowing, how debt is created, what information you should have on all your debt. So we have a couple of little tidbits that you need to understand. In our society, I know that a lot of people think of debt as a bad word. Well, my motto is too much of anything is no good. So if you have too much debt and the wrong kind of debt, then it's definitely not good for you. So even if it's a good thing for you, it can become bad if you're not, you're not using it wisely. So being wise about how you use your debt and being wise about what kind of debt you have and understanding your debt is super important in our society. So we are a society that is built on debt. If you talk to, if you watch CNBC or you speak to any financial advisors or you even listen to the Shark Tank guys or anybody who has made their money, they talk about leveraging. Leverage is considered debt. And what does leverage? It helps you to use other people's money to increase your wealth if you use leverage properly. So that is the key, is using it properly, understanding it and using it properly. So I'm going to have a guest speaker on the second half of the show we're going to be talking about mortgage debt, and he's going to go into a little bit more about understanding your debt to income ratio and all the other things. But we're going to start off with first understanding the difference between revolving and non-revolving debt. So every debt is either revolving or non-revolving. Understanding the difference is one thing that you should add to your financial literacy library, which is part of your head. If it's not in your brain, then it should be somewhere in your library to understand that what the difference is. So the most common revolving debt is credit card. Though lines of credit can be revolving debt also. But the most common is credit cards. Then there's non-revolving debt. We're going to go dig deep into revolving debt and how it can become dangerous to you if you are not using it properly. So then we have non-revolving debt that is usually borrowing a lump sum, and then it doesn't revolve. Those things includes mortgages where you're borrowing a lump sum, or student loans, personal loans, car loans. You borrow one lump sum and then you pay it on something what you call an amortization schedule. So it's a schedule of payment where you're paying principal and interest, and eventually that will be finished at the term of that debt. So what is revolving debt? Revolving debt is usually, it can be secured, but sometimes unsecured, most of the time unsecured. Credit card debt is an example of revolving debt. Home equity lines of credit is another example of revolving debt. Revolving debt, when it comes, usually has a credit limit that's set by the lender. And with revolving debt, you can borrow against the limit over an indefinite period of time. So one of the main differences between revolving and non-revolving debt is the term of the debt. Revolving means it keeps revolving until it's totally paid off. With non-revolving debt, you have a specific term when the debt should be paid off, and it's on a specific schedule. So that's what you need to understand about that. So HELOCs and credit cards are the most common kind of revolving debt. With revolving debt, you borrow against the credit limit, like I said. So the best way to handle revolving debt here are a few tips on handling revolving debt. Watch your spending, especially with credit card. Credit cards are not meant to be a supplement for your budget. Credit cards should be used as an electronic currency for your budget. You need to understand what you're buying, and in today's day, with the electronic age that we live in today, we survive with our apps, our computers, our phone. Everything is within our eyesight, our hands everywhere, that we can look this information up as soon as possible. As soon as you buy something, it shows up on your credit card. You have that app, you can look at it. My son asked me when he got his first credit card at 18, Mom, when should I pay my credit card bill? Knowing my 18-year-old son at that time, and knowing everyone within that society, within our society when he was 18 years old in 2000, whatever it was, I said, you pay your credit card when you get paid, because it is not an extension of your income. You only have certain amount of income. The credit card doesn't add income to you. It is just like your debit card. That's why I always start off my kids with a debit card. So when the money's done in their account, sometimes I cringe. My 16-year-old right now, I started him with a debit card at 14, and I try not to look at it. Because I know he's spending money on games and all these things that he's spending money on. But it's his money, his allowances, whatever. He needs to understand that it finishes. It's over with. So it's not an endless thing, charge. And then before you know it, you're overwhelmed with credit card debt. That is not the way to use credit card. If you use credit cards properly, it will benefit you. And I am not going to tell you that you should stay away from credit cards or your kids should stay away from credit cards, because if you want to use leverage as part of your overall financial literacy package, your overall financial literacy building wealth package, then you need to understand credit. You need, revolving debt. You need to understand revolving debt. It is an important part of your society. You can't buy a house without having credit. You can't get a car without having credit. Sometimes no credit is just as bad as having bad credit. So it kind of depends on where you're looking. So you need to make sure that you use everything wisely. My motto on things is, if you prevent things, especially if I hide my kids from things and I protect my kids from things and they don't know how to use it when they go out into this world, I'm doing them a disservice, because they don't know how to handle that situation. They've never seen it before, so they don't have that experience. My job as a parent and my job as a financial literacy advocate, where financial literacy is totally my passion, is to teach you that you need to use these things properly. You need to use revolving credit properly. You need to understand what it is before you start using it. And if used properly, it can be very beneficial to you. If not used properly, it can be very detrimental to you. So you need to make sure you understand what you're doing. Your credit card is an electronic payment. So if you don't have that money in your account, you shouldn't be charging it on your credit card. You should have a budget on how much you're spending on your credit card. What are you buying? If you're buying your groceries or whatever, that credit card bill is part of your budget. When you're tracking, that is a significant part of it. So you need to understand that you're spending your own money. It's not free money that you're going to cross the bridge when you get to it, when the bill comes. No, you cross the bridge now. That money needs to be, if you're spending it, you have to have it to be spending it. So that's the way you need to look at credit cards. So I pay my credit card every week. I make a payment on it every week because I charge everything on there. I barely have cash. So my revolving debt credit card is paid every week. That's how it is. So that's the one thing I need to be serious. And the other thing about credit card debt is the interest is phenomenally high. You are paying so much for that dress or that thing that you think you're getting on sale, or for the instant gratification that you want something right now and you can't afford it. So then you won't be able to pay your credit card off. And then now you're going to have this as a revolving debt at 20-30% interest rate. If you calculate how much that is along the time of you paying this bill off, it is astronomical, and won't be worth it. So there is a treat, there is a reward for waiting on things. Instant gratification is not necessarily, you don't want to deprive yourself. You want to plan for that large item that you want to buy. You don't want to deprive yourself, but instant gratification is not going to help you either. So you make sure you're definitely thinking about that. So one of the other debt is also called, we have installment debt. So installment debt is another term for non-revolving debt. So non-revolving debt, installment loans, one lump sum loan payments, that's all non-revolving debt. For example, if you take a $10,000 personal loan out to consolidate some of your debt, which if you got into trouble with credit card and now you're trying to get financial literate and make sure that you're getting out of the holes and learning from your mistakes, then one of the ways is to do that. You might take one, for example, that you're paying over 36 months, and that is a kind of a non-revolving installment loan debt. Other types of installment loans are things that we spoke about before, your mortgage, which we're going to go more into real estate debt, secured debt, mortgages, refinancing on the second half of our show. But mortgages, auto loans, student loans, personal loans, those are non-revolving debt. Non-revolving debt, like I said, usually have a term for it, and then you use that term, and it's amortized over that term, and you pay one lump sum, and then you one amount, and then by the end of the term, you're finished paying off for the loan. So that's what it is. So you might have payments once every 2 weeks, once every month. Usually the payments are once every month. So you're looking at that. So if you eventually will be paying that off if once you make your set payments when it's due, and that pays down the principal of the loan and whatever interest is being charged